Hey guys, my name is Ayana and this is my channel. So as you would have seen just now, I created that amazing mini dress out of this men's oversized shirts. So let's get into how I created it, and I'll show you guys some little tips and tricks along the way to create. To create the dress, the first thing I did was identify where I wanted it to pull in to create that dress effect to begin with. Now, in my last refashion video where I took an oversized graphic tee and created a dress, I used a piece of elastic to pull everything together. In this video, instead of elastic, I'm actually going to create a drawstring that I can use to pull everything together and give it a nice fit on my body. To first identify where exactly that drawstring needs to be. So what you want to do is just take your measuring tape, not to measure anything, but really just to act as your drawstring so that you can identify where you want that drawstring to be. Now, because it's a buttoned up, a button up shirt, it will be so much easier because you can just identify, okay, I need the drawstring to be right where button number 2 is, or etc. So for me, I would need my drawstring, and I'm gonna make sure that it is proper all the way around, and I'm also gonna pull my shirt down because I don't want anything gathering up anyway, right? So for me, my drawstring will have to be between my second and my third button. So it's just going to be that little mid area between those two buttons, right? And the other thing that I'm going to do is remove my sleeves because I don't want them. They're too huge. Sorry, they're too huge. They're too huge. So I'm going to cut them away, and the sleeves is actually going to be extra fabric, so I can use one sleeve to create the casing for the drawstring, and I could use the other sleeve to create the string needed for the entire drawstring effect. So let's get into that. The first thing I did was cut away those sleeves. Next, I folded my shirt in half, right side facing right side, and I used the pin to keep it into place. The next thing, I placed my ruler on the mark where I want my drawstring casing to be, and I also decided I wanted the drawstring casing to be the same width as my ruler. So I used my ruler to draw out the area. Here's a tip when it comes time to create the markings of the casing on the other half of the shirt. What made it very easy for me to stay in line was to kind of pull the folded side of the shirt onto the half that I'm gonna mark off on, and I used it as a guide to make sure that my ruler was in the right height and also lining up with the lines that I created on the other half of the shirt. Next is to measure out the length of the casing area. So I used my measuring tape to measure from one end of the shirt to the next end of the shirt. For me, it was 58 inches. Once I had the casing measurements, I took one of the sleeves, turned it inside out, and I used my ruler to draw out strips to cut out. Now, because my casing is the same width as the ruler, I just used my ruler to make all markings for the strips. Once I had the strips, I just connected them at the ends to get the length needed for the casing. I noticed that I only needed 3 pieces to create the casing length, so I just used the other 3 pieces to create the string that I would need to pass through the casing. For attaching the piece to create the drawstring casing, you would notice after cutting off the sleeve, you have this big opening, and it is a bit revealing. Well, it's a bit too revealing for me. If you're comfortable with it, then you can go ahead and leave it. All you would need to do is really fold in your raw edges and, you know, neaten up your edges. Once I had the casing strip in order, all I had to do was pin it into place along the casing marking that I created earlier. With the casing complete and my string in order, it was time to filter the string through the casing. So what I did was snipped small openings on either end of my shirt where the casing was, took a small pin and just filtered the string through that casing, and that was it. And that's it. 3 easy steps to go from oversized shirt to amazing, cute mini shirt dress. So guys, I hope this video was helpful, and until next time, deuces.